It is such a weird feeling to not be able to just relax into van life anymore. There's a part of me that's constantly waiting for a disaster to happen. Drones in the sky that nobody can identify, and there seem to be more and more. The global politics has just gone crazy. There are freak floods, wildfires, and I have to say, it's getting harder to feel safe parking in the city. And this has been sad. I don't want to lose van life. And so I started to toss and turn a lot at night. But our lives are so precious. They're so friggin' precious that it just seemed ludicrous to me that to lose joy, to lose really wanting to be here. I heard this speaker talk about how when we actually pay attention to what's bothering us, like in our body, that our body can start to tell us things to do that our minds, very limited by beliefs and patterns, don't tend to think of. So I did that for a week. I sat down and just closed my eyes in the mornings for about 5 minutes. And I just sit there. Images of floods, images of fires, images of, all these crazy things going on would flood me. And instead of staying with the images, I'd notice the feeling. And when I started to notice the feeling of vulnerability, then something really cool started to happen. Solutions, creative thinking, out of the box thinking started to happen. What if van life could be combined with bug out vehicle? What if the two could go together like this? And it doesn't have to be one or the other. Like if you're living in a van or a car or a Jeep or a truck, it doesn't mean that you can't be ready for an emergency. It doesn't mean that disaster preparedness has to go out the window. That is not the exclusive right of people who live on land and can farm and grow their own food and all of that. We can do it too. So I started to make lists, love the lists, of all these ideas for how to be prepared for disaster, and started to read the books and watch the videos. And I'd been doing this years ago too. Maybe you have also. And what started to come clear was, okay, van life can be reimagined. It really can. And that's what I want to share with you today. There are 3 massively empowering actions that I'm going to take with van life for more disaster preparedness, SHTF scenarios. Life can be a joy again. So we're not ready to bug out. Oh, it's time to get more organized, as you can see. And what that's going to look like are redundant systems. I think bug out for longer term than maybe a week, because I'm not really talking about boondocking here. Bug out vehicle is different than boondocking vehicle, because with fires and hurricanes and whatever else there is coming, it could be a month, it could be 2 months, it could be a lot longer. Like if there's an EMT attack, that means that's an electromagnetic pulse. That means that all the electronics go out. That means that solar doesn't work anymore, because the electronic controllers in our solar batteries, they just get, zapped, right? So, and cars may not work. So it's like a game of musical chairs. Where you're parked is where you stay in an EMT attack. And so I want to have a lot of redundant systems. That means, yes, a great battery for cooking electric, so that you don't have to rely on propane, which probably wouldn't exist anymore. These are the kinds of things I have linked in the Make It Easy product list that you can get through the Happy Camper checklist down below. Just this idea of redundant systems. I'm excited about that, actually. That's going to feel really good, because it's that feeling of what if that is just constantly running in the background. And I would like to be able to answer that part of the lizard brain and say, okay, so you're asking, what if the solar panel stops working, or the solar cable stops working, or there's an EMP attack and there is no way to cook on electric? What if? All right, I can just say to that lizard part of the brain, no problem. I've also got this little folding camping stove that I'm gonna just set outside, put some twigs in, and heat up the soup. So, that just feels so good, so good. And the same is true for the refrigerator. The refrigerator will not work without solar electricity or plug-in electricity. It just won't do it. So you don't have to have everything that you're going to eat rely on the refrigerator, right? I'm going to have some canned stuff, some dehydrated stuff. And frankly, if you're near a farm or parked near a farm, then there's food right there nearby, if you're friends with the farmer. So that's the kind of thinking. It's like friendly bug out, friendly to the lizard part of the brain. Now, I don't want to live in fear, and I don't want you to live in fear. I don't want any of us to live in fear. However, I think fear can be a healthy thing if it's kept in perspective or kept at the right scale. In exports, there is a lot of mental preparation that goes on ahead of time. So like glacier climbers and people who, base jump. Living this life can feel like that too, sometimes. Sort of out there in the wilds of the world without a whole lot of safety net, or maybe any. So one of the ways that export people are able to accomplish what they accomplish is they prepare. They imagine the worst case scenarios, the best case scenarios. They practice, and they gain confidence that they actually have the skills and the knowledge to do what they need to do. And then when the difficult situation happens, in our case, let's say the wildfire or the flood or the EMP or the drones, right? Our whole body can be more relaxed. It's bizarre. It can be this incredibly big disaster, and we will actually feel less stressed because we did all that preparation. So that's massive empowerment action number one. So what is the second massively empowering thing that we can do if we want to combine van life and bug out life in order to sleep better? So what I had to come to terms with was that the gypsy in me had to come to terms with the fact that land and community are really important. Now, of course, I already knew this. I had a very full community life, very full land life before van life. The idea, though, of being free on the road was so compelling. I was willing to wait a very long time to have those again in the beginning. And then all this unease started to settle in. And, I've been hearing from other folks living in vehicles that, they're starting to feel this too. So if you're feeling some unease about it, I'm exploring the benefits of living on land and having a home base. There's also have a friend with a garage where, you could store some supplies. You could store some rations. You could store some, gear, so that if things are getting weird out there in the world on the road, you can come to your friends and park, and you've got everything there. You could do the same thing with a storage unit, or buy yourself a little piece of land and put a shed on it. Have it be somewhere where it's not just going to get robbed. And easier said than done, I know. But just that's the kind of thinking that started to settle in for me. And so we're making some pretty big changes about that I'm going to be talking to you about in another video. And so that can give some peace of mind as well. That way you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get home on wheels and a place to park. All right. Okay. What's next? Number 3. So number 3 is about being a bit more planned, having a bit more routine. And what that could look like is seasonal strategy. I did a video on what van life is like in New England and how it can be really challenging, especially during certain seasons. Well, I think the same is true no matter where you are. There are just going to be seasons where there are going to be fires, seasons where there are going to be floods, seasons where there are going to be hurricanes. If you're planning out where you're going to be, then why not do it according to being places when the weather is safest, right? And why not pick out some favorite places and have a routine so that you know. And that's really what I started to need, was a sense of, where am I going to be in January? Where am I going to be in June? Where am I going to be in the fall? Where am I going to be during hurricane season? Where am I going to be during fire season? And now the idea of combining van life with bug out vehicle, it means that, okay, if we're in a place during a rough season for the weather, we're going to be better off than we would have been otherwise, right? And that makes me feel a lot better. But also just having the structure of, okay, I have somewhat of a plan and I'm planning it seasonally. So that gave me some peace of mind too. Now, if you found this at all helpful or interesting, then check out the link below, because I have a checklist down there. So my gosh, you can see all kinds of bug out products just to make your life easier and get her done. Tried to take a lot of the work out of it and the time out of it, because hey, things are getting weird and I don't know what kind of time we have left for it to be easy to get products and to get them affordably. I am looking forward to hearing any of your stories about what you're doing to help yourself feel more relaxed and at ease in these very weird times on the road. I'll see you in the next video, where we dive even deeper into living well on the road. Enjoy your journey.